Good old association, a marketer's favorite tool for you to want their product subconsciously. I'd like to start this video off with the American Psychological Association's definition of association. They define it as the mental connection between concept, event, and mental states. Since definitions are stale and somewhat boring, why don't we look at an example that I put inside the intro, the Coca-Cola ad. Now some of you might say, well Marco, I don't see any associations, just two random people drinking Coca-Cola, just as happiness Coca-Cola. I don't see the association integration into it. Let's look a little deeper. As you can see, the two people in the photo are smiling. That means from the definition, their mental states are happy. They want to associate happiness with Coca-Cola, as you can see on the top right, and even the Coke's in their hand. Another association Coca-Cola wants to make in this ad is love or closeness. As you can see, the two people are very close to each other, holding the Coke, so they want to associate love and closeness with Coca-Cola. Now their ultimate end goal by doing this is either when you're in a happy state, you're going to think subconsciously that you want a Coca-Cola, or if you're with a loved one or you're with a close friend, you're going to subconsciously want a Coca-Cola at that time as well. Now before you say, Marco, that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, it's just a commercial, I still don't see it. Take a look at this Coca-Cola commercial that aired on TV. Tell me if you see one person not smiling, if you don't see affection, if you don't see these associations that they're trying to make in these commercials. Here, check it out. I don't even need to show you guys the whole commercial because I'm sure you've already seen these associations within the first 20 seconds of the commercial. It's time to get into the nitty-gritty of how these associations are formed, the methods that are used in commercials and in psychology to form these associations. The two methods for creating association are classical conditioning and instrumental conditioning. In classical conditioning, the ultimate goal is to pair what's called a conditioned stimulus with a conditioned response. The best way to explain this method is to use the original experiment as an example. If you ever heard the name Pavlov, then this is the example that we're going to use. So, what his goal was to train a dog when it heard a bell, or it was a metronome, to begin to salivate like it was presented food or it smelt food. So as seen in the top picture there, before conditioning, there's food. It's called the unconditioned stimulus. It's just food. We're biologically wired to know what food is. And salivation is just a biological response to seeing food. Now, if we look at the second row, you're going to see that if you were to ring a bell, the dog's not going to salivate. Maybe it will look at you because it heard a noise, but it's not going to do the unconditioned response, which is salivation. Now let's take a look at the third row. It's called during conditioning. So we're going to keep pairing a bell noise with the food, which is the unconditioned response. So every time I ring a bell, I present food to the dog, and the dog begins to salivate. If repeated enough times, I would be able to ring the bell, and the dog would begin to salivate because it thinks that it's going to get a treat or food. So we reached our final goal in classical conditioning. We paired the conditioned stimulus, which is the bell, to what's now called a conditioned response, which is salivation. Another example of classical conditioning in dogs would just be saying the word walk when you're going to take it for a walk. When you first got the dog didn't have the association of saying the word walk with actually going on a walk. Therefore, through the use of classical conditioning, you paired walking, just the word, with actually going on a walk. Now that I've said walk enough that my dog is staring at me, let's start to look at some real-life examples of classical conditioning in ads today. This will be another Coca-Cola commercial. That is because Coca-Cola is well known for using classical conditioning in their advertisements. While watching the video, see if you can identify what the conditioned stimulus is, the conditioned response, the unconditioned stimulus, and the unconditioned responses. If you thought classical conditioning was only for pets, well, think again, because you just watched a video of classical conditioning, and here's the chart that I broke down the aspects of classical conditioning. Here we see the unconditioned stimulus is free. Free is free. People like free. And when you pair the free with the unconditioned response, is happiness. So if I give you, here's an iPhone 7 for free, I'm pretty sure you're going to be pretty happy. Now the conditioned stimulus, like the bell, is Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola by itself is not really much, but when you keep pairing it with the stuff that they were getting, multiple free Cokes, a large sub as you saw in the end, that feeling of happiness will be now associated with drinking or having Coca-Cola. We are now going to start to look into the other type of conditioning, which is instrumental conditioning. In instrumental conditioning, there are two types of reinforcement: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement strengthens a behavior by providing a consequence an individual finds rewarding. Here's an example of instrumental conditioning on TV.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall.
You see, positive reinforcement is simple. You do the desired behavior, you get the desired reward. Here's an example of positive reinforcement in advertising. Tribute Ale is trying to suggest you did a desired behavior. Now it's time to get your reward. And what is that reward? Well, it's Tribute Ale. Now we're going to move on to negative reinforcement. Now for negative reinforcement, it is basically a response or behavior is strengthened by stopping, removing, or avoiding a negative outcome or adverse stimulus. Here's a video that we can pretty much all relate to that perfectly displays negative reinforcement. As you can see in the video, by them destroying their alarm clocks, they are avoiding the negative outcome of them having to get up in the morning. The biggest offenders of negative reinforcement in advertising are insurance agencies. What the insurance company is trying to insinuate here is that this all wouldn't have happened, or you wouldn't have been as worried if you just had insurance. We're now going to be talking about punishment. Now, punishment is basically the opposite of reinforcement. It's designed to weaken or eliminate a response rather than increase it.
Wasn't you. Duke? Duke, was it you? Was that mess you? Was that you? Or was it Ruger? Was it you? Ruger? Ruger? Did you do this mess?
You may be thinking, why would a company put punishment inside their videos? I thought you were supposed to associate happiness and friendliness with your company. Well, it turns out that a lot of government agencies like to use punishment inside their advertisements to reduce a certain behavior. The commercial you're about to see is a MAD commercial, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and they use punishment quite well in this video. MAD is trying to associate drinking and driving with serious offenses such as murder or attempted murder. Now, you can also hear the sirens in the background, which means they're also trying to associate drinking and driving with the police and punishment through jail time. Now, after learning about both conditioning types, instrumental and classical, and how advertisers use them in their advertisements, you're probably thinking, well, why does it benefit them? What does it do? Companies spend millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars every year on advertising. Advertising then leads to brand awareness, and brand awareness leads to brand loyalty, and brand loyalty results in profit or revenue for the company. Let's take Coca-Cola for example. This company spent billions of dollars over decades of time to create these associations and condition their consumers to want Coca-Cola. This is why it is important for companies to use patent, trademarks, and copyrights to protect their long-term investment in marketing. Here we see logos that are meant to look like popular brands for them to try and steal all the brand awareness and associations there towards the real brand for their own profit. For the last part of this video, we're going to see how association sometimes backfires to a company. Some of you might remember him, but his name is Jared Fogle, and he was the American spokesperson for Subway. And he was in a lot of advertising campaigns for Subway between 2000 and 2015. In August of 2015, he pleaded guilty to receiving child pornography and asking for a child prostitute. For 15 years, Subway has associated themselves with Jared. And when these serious allegations come out against him, well, Subway's brand image is going to go down a lot, and it did. The first thing somebody would say when looking at the TV when this was on the news is, "Hey, isn't that the guy from Subway?" Both consciously and subconsciously, when you look at Jared, you're going to think Subway, which leads to negative feelings towards Subway. And what even scarred Subway even further is that apparently a Subway franchise knew about Jared Fogle's interest in children, but they did nothing, which further decreases the brand image of Subway. The use of association is everywhere, from the media to marketing to even our everyday lives. By watching this video, I hope you got a more clear understanding and see these sneaky methods that these advertisers use in their advertisements to kind of get your subconscious thinking differently than you would consciously. I'll now leave you with a clip that many students associate themselves to during exam times.
Alright, bye-bye guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, bye.